While it seems many a Transformers fan grew up knowing only one or two shows from their childhood, I'm not one of them. Yeah, technically I was a kid when I discovered Generation 2 and Beast Wars was there for my preteen years, but I was never incentivized to look away from the franchise growing up. I have as just much connection with Transformers Armada as I do with the shows that came before it, even though I was 16 at the time. As such, I was just as excited for the new Armada Universe figures as I was for the Beast Wars one, and so today's subject will be Transformers Legacy/Legacy Evolution Armada Universe 4-in-1! Can I ever have a short title for these things? So as the time of this recording, I only have 4 Armada Universe Legacy figures, which consist of the main characters everyone recognizes. As of the time I scripted, there's also been another Hotshot out, and hintings of more Armada figs to come, and given my scheduling, will probably already be officially announced and have been out on store shelves for months before I get off my butt and finish filming this. The point is, I have these figures, and these alone will be the subject of today's vid, starting with the yellow Kid Appeal Autobot car character who couldn't be named Bumblebee because of trademark reasons. Yep, this yellow Roboman is Hotshot, the origin of whose name was discussed the last time I looked at some Hotshot figures, so instead here are some other tidbits. Despite being more of a hot rod type character in practice, my previous statement about trademarks isn't untrue, as Hotshot was initially conceived as Armada's Bumblebee, which I'm of two minds about these days, but I'll get into that in a bit. Also, he has been the butt of many jokes among the fandom over the years, from the Jam comic to his numerous cameos as a dead guy in comics.
Jam!
Primus, help me. This Hotshot is based on that original design from Armada, drawing I would say mostly on his animated character model rather than the toy because, I mean, just look at this thing. That is the face of repressed pain. Personally though, I still don't favor the look nearly as much as I would for say either the Universe figure design or the 2004 game design. Seriously, the legs are just awful. I mean, I get they had to do something to make them not look hollow, but fitting the windscreen back there just wasn't the answer to this problem, as it not only looks worse, but it means his forearms lose bulk, which they desperately need. Functionally though, he's much more serviceable as a posable action figure than either of these two, so while he could have used a few more design passes for visual niceness, he still trumps his predecessors at arm and leg game. Plus, unlike the Universe figure, this Hotshot retains the Axel Zuka gimmick, minus the things that made that awkward, as instead of having to plug a minicon into his butt to set off the spring-loaded mechanism to immediately fling a plastic missile off into the ether, you just flip it out like so. Kind of boring without the launching gimmicks, but it gives you some options to work with for play value. Vehicle mode is that of a yellow sports car that is apparently similar to but legally distinct from an Audi TT. I don't see it, but then again, I don't know what else it would look like. I don't know cars, I just read wiki articles. Go ask Lazy Eyebrow. All I know is that, like in robot mode, this car just doesn't look that good to me. The profile looks too low and too wide, and the wheels are really small. It rolls and can mount the engine gun on the hood, but lacks the accompanying functionality that had on the original toy, so you'll have to do it yourself. And despite this version lacking a minicon of his own, he still has a standard minicon post to accommodate power linking. Honestly, I have mixed feelings about this guy. As I said before, he's the most functionally pleasing iteration of this design in plastic of the ones I own, but he just doesn't look as visually pleasing in either mode. The Universe figure looks better in terms of proportions and having a general dynamic feel, but I'd still say this is a better investment than that given how hampered everything else about that figure is. I'd get into more specifics, but I think I'll save that for a comparison review for another day. Why would I save that for another comparison review? I want to whinge on about this right now. I mean, what am I going to compare it to? Freaking Dion? Legacy Hotshot is still just worth his asking price, I'd say. Though, I only say that because I don't want to go over the same spiel I always do about the rising costs of this hobby. And to close off, I'm glad Hotshot ultimately became his own character in a way, as it gives us yet another distinct name to work with. On the other hand, he's kind of lost what defines him to other characters since, which ultimately isn't his fault, but is understandably a sticking point for revising his character in future works, besides rescue bots. Yeah. Actually, no, maybe don't bring him back ever again, please. Now here's a name that needs no introductions, but a character that may need one. Armada Starscream was rather different from other self-centered schemers who share his name, at least as far as the anime goes. He wasn't without all typical Starscream qualities, as he was noticeably vain at times, but in more respects he was more akin to Dinobot, right down to his ultimate self-sacrifice.
The rest is silence.
Fuck you, Energon! If you like that show, you were objectively and factually wrong. Yes, Armada Universe Starscream, as before, draws upon his old design and does so fairly well, though not without missing splashes of color around certain parts of his body. He does share this trait with the Generations figure, but I don't know, something about it feels more egregious here on a modern Voyager. Another shared trait is that he comes with two swords that are not converted from his actual wings. One wing blade and one star saber, and both a good degree too short, I feel, to be taken seriously. Like, I'm glad the star saber gets some kind of representation, but in Screamer's hand, this legendary blade feels like a joke knockoff. And I think I could do without it if it meant this actual wing blade were more substantial. Of note, you can easily fold down his actual wing if you want him to look accurate, or remove it altogether since it's on a mushroom peg. And be glad you can do that, because for whatever reason, Hasbro decided it'd be a great idea to hold this figure together with almost nothing but pins. Seriously, everywhere you'd think you'd find a screw besides the back of the head is filled with a pin instead. Fucking why? Oh yeah, he can also do the no laser cannon thing, and much like Hotshot, there's no minicon or spring-loaded mechanisms, and unlike both previous iterations, no missiles at all. Opposing power is also up to modern standards, so you'll have plenty of fun there, I imagine. In vehicle mode, Starscream is a jet that has no real-world analog of any kind, and quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure it would even be flight-capable, but that's par for the course with this design. No landing gear support, which I'm not surprised by, but does seem slightly odd given that the 2014 figure slips them in. It can also store the swords in this mode, but no matter how you do, it just looks stupid. Not that the null ray cannons don't also look stupid, but again, that's a carryover of the design. Overall, I still think this is a good figure and a good secret design in general, though I struggle to say whether it's better than an Earthrise Seeker. They more or less accomplish the same thing for the respective iterations, it's just that the AR mold doesn't quite hit the mark for greatness, but even Legacy Screamer is not completely there either. I can definitely recommend him. He's a good Voyager, a good Starscream, a good villain, and a good hero to be remembered. Hashtag fuck Energon. The ever-magnificent bastard, Megatron. I would have waited an eternity for this. Armada Megatron is one of my favorite Megatron designs. It's so different in so many ways from the classic silhouette of most other Megatrons, from the tall shoulders and antlers to his unique color palette. Not to mention that handsome mug, I can almost hear David Kaye's voice resonating from within the plastic. Almost. Sorry, I didn't even attempt to approach him for a shout out in this case.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
This isn't the first time this iteration of Megs has been remade in plastic, but unlike the other guys, I didn't bother with that one because, I mean, just look at it.
It's awful.
This one, though, is almost perfect. Mostly just missing a tiny con badge here on the chest and something a little more relevant to the vehicle mode. Posability is also on point, but he shares that one limitation Scourge did where his arms move separately from the skyscrapers above them, leading to limitations moving upward. I wasn't fussed about this at first, but after seeing his shoulder upgrade set, I am almost tempted to get one myself. Still, he can get some pretty dynamic shots and look really natural in them, considering how chunky he is. His only real weapon of note is the tank cannon, which has a number of possible applications for him. But his main draw is, of course, his Evo Fusion mode, which works about the same on the original minus any kind of mechanical or light-up gimmickry, which doesn't work on the old one anymore anyway. Even so, the tank turret doesn't spin all the way around for some reason. It can go this far around this way and this far around the other way, but can't do a full 360, and I don't get why this is. Speaking of tanks, much like the original, this tank ain't nothing like anything on Earth as far as I can tell. It's an H tank, pure and simple, but like the original, it is a beastly looking H tank. Only in looks though. Functionality-wise, it's a hell of a step back from all the deployable minicon-based functionality the original had. In fact, both Screamer and Megs lack any kind of minicon ports whatsoever. Plenty of 5mm holes, but neither of them are gonna let their old minicon partners connect to them without help. Also, the paint on this part here is incomplete, and it kinda bothers me. Like, I can tell half of this is a different plastic that's probably that unpaintable stuff, but frankly, if that was a design impediment, then I'd rather this strip here wasn't painted at all. As it is, it just looks half-assed and dumb. Despite these shortcomings, I still love this figure and can't recommend it enough. This guy is everything I wanted back when Armada came out. I didn't give a toss about the gimmicks, I just wanted an awesome and imposing looking Megatron that I could play with like an actual action figure, and not just a playset with elbows. Not that this is bad for what it is, it just wasn't what I wanted. I'm sorry, Megs, it's not you, it's me.
Let me show you pain.
Oh boy. Folks, I gotta come clean with ya. This is my first commander class. I've not invested in a single one up to this point, and now that I have... Another notably different Optimus Prime from the norm, and again, another favorite because of it. He still has enough cues to very clearly represent a version of the character, including the colors, but he also has design elements that I feel somewhat invoke a certain other Optimus, and I'm not just saying that because they're both voiced by Gary Chalk.
We must stop Megatron!
Hear me out. The forearm-mounted double cannons, the feet having some semblance of toes, and the grill looks kinda similar to the details on Primal's chest. Am I reaching? Please someone see what I see. In any case, Armada Prime is his own flavor, and one not really revisited in any capacity since, though the bendy Prime mold got out there a number of times. He's also not a particularly big boy, which, considering the price demanded of a commander class, you would think I would be beyond pissed. Especially given his articulation, which, while still good, is not super outstanding. Yes, he comes with his rifle and a number of ways to hold it, as well as a removable matrix that I can say without a doubt this time he cannot hold. But what really bolsters the price is this trailer. I typically detest when a trailer is used to arbitrarily boost the cost of a given Optimus Prime figure, especially when it's a hollow, lifeless shell. But that's not what this trailer is. This trailer has quite a bit of functionality, starting with the base mode that certainly feels substantial in a way, if not quite as substantial as the original. Granted, that one had the auto-transform gimmick that I will not be attempting to deploy as such, because I'm too lazy to find new batteries and not because I'm afraid it will catch on fire, and frankly I think Bolt Matrix is a liar. I feel it is underwhelming, and again, I don't care for trailer bases. But considering something else that this thing can do, I'm willing to give it a pass. As an actual trailer with Prime in vehicle mode is where things start to look up. Now again, there's no real-world analog for what this is apart from a generic long-nose semi-cab and trailer combo, and really the trailer itself gets no marks for realism between the shapes, missile launcher, and tank tracks. No, I looked it up, and tank tracks are actual thing that can be put on semi-trucks and trailers. Also, without the trailer, the cab section looks fine, but the back sticks out a little too far for my tastes. Still, when it's all together, I can't help feeling its enormity. even if it isn't as big as the original, it's just still feels big. Monster convoy indeed. Even so, if this was all there was to the truck and trailer combo, I would still not be impressed enough to drop full price on this thing. But of course, no. There is still one last thing it can do. Optimus Prime Super Mode! Holy cow, how I have both awaited this day and yet never believed it would ever come to pass. A fully transforming Armada Prime with fully posable Super Mode? Like, before Naval Commander, I thought the way the trailer worked made something like that a pipe dream. Granted, the trade-off in this case is not having a particularly great base mode, but considering what the original sacrificed, I will gladly accept this. However, as much as I love that all these things could be done with this figure, I am, as ever, dubious about the full price value of this thing for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm a cheap ass motherfucker. And number two, I still don't actually care that much for the trailer and all it encompasses. You see, I love Armada Optimus Prime's base robot and vehicle modes on their own for what they are, and don't really like the look of the super mode nearly as much. It's why I was more than happy to even have the deluxe sized Armada Prime for so long, because it was more than passable for what I wanted. Take away my feelings about how bloody overpriced TF toys are these days, and I certainly cannot deny the value of the whole package. But given the option of perhaps a trailer-less figure at a Voyager cost, and I would dance to that tune without question. At the end, I say the fact that this figure as is even being possible is worth the purchase. Just maybe wait for a price drop, he says, as if that will ever happen. And with that out of the way, one question remains. Will this guy be yet equipped with another pair of super pants? Only time and money will tell for certain. And that wraps up the Armada foursome thus far. As I said before, there have been some hints about what's coming next at the time of this writing, but I'm gonna call it a night here. I'm just really glad these figures exist. I really am. Armada was such a welcome return to form in its own way at the time it was around, and with the constant throwbacks to G1 over the years, it's nice to see this period get recognition again. It is a pity that the creativity that I loved about that era didn't remain quite as prevalent. Then again, we might not have such excellent remakes as these if it had. Anyway, this has been the Debaucian Mentality, and as always, thank you for watching. Check the description for my various social media outlets as well as my coffee page if you care to follow up on that, and peace out.